In this lecture, we're going to fix a problem in our animated list. This transition is almost perfect. One thing you'll notice is that the list items jump. If I add a list item, any numbers below that number will jump down to make room. If I were to remove an item, the numbers above it jump up to compensate for the space. The snappiness isn't appealing at all. Vue will not take care of it for us. We're the ones responsible for handling how sibling elements should move. Go back to the editor. Vue will add a class to elements that are being moved over. It's called the Move class. Just like the other CSS classes, Vue will prepend the name of the transition to the generated class name. In this instance, the class name would be FadeMove. Using this class, we can animate the other items. We're going to define the class in the style block below the other Fade classes. Vue applies the Transform CSS property to the elements that are moving. It'll take care of updating the Transform CSS property. Therefore, we don't need to do anything ourselves. We don't see the effect of Vue transforming the element because the transition property is not applied to it. The transition property is what will make the movement look smoother. We'll define the transition property with a duration of 1 second with a linear motion. The transform property is automatically applied to the list items that get moved. We're following it up by telling the browser it should smoothly transition them rather than jumping immediately. With that set, let's give things a test again. We'll try adding items to the list. As we add them in, not only does the element fade in, the elements below it slide down smoothly. This is because the FadeMove class is being applied to the other elements where we apply the transition property. This doesn't solve all our problems. If I were to remove an element, you'd see that Vue doesn't properly animate the items moving back up. Why is that? This is because the element doesn't have to move during the animation technically. Keep in mind that two things are happening when we add or remove numbers. There's the addition or removal of an element. Then there's the animation itself. When a number is added, Vue will add a list item with that number. That element will occupy space. Therefore, any elements taking up that space have to be moved. During that process, Vue will animate the element by fading it in. We're not increasing its size or changing its height. It already takes up that space. When we remove an element, the opposite happens. The animation plays first, and then the element gets removed. Even though the element is fading away, it still occupies that space. As a result, the other elements don't have to move. Their transform property doesn't have to change. The Move class gets applied during the animation. Once the animation is over, the element gets removed, and the Move class is also removed. Therefore, it never gets the chance to animate the other list items. How do we get the Move class to animate the elements if the item being removed still holds its space? Well, there are a number of ways, but the simplest is by using absolute positioning. Switching back to the editor, we're going to set the position to absolute inside the FadeLeave class. By using absolute positioning, the item fading away will give up its space, forcing the other elements to move up. After making this change, let's test if this works. If I were to click on any list item, the items below it would smoothly move up, taking its space. This is fantastic. We've removed the snapping motion we had before. This makes things smoother and cleaner. We're finished with animating the list.